It happens in a fraction of a second. A truck fully loaded descending the western face of the Blue Mountains. A grade so steep it forces drivers to downshift 2 gears before they even begin. A car crosses the center line. Wet sandstone cuttings, no barrier, nowhere to go. This stretch of road, the Great Western Highway between Blackheath and Lithgow, is not just busy. It is, by any engineering measure, dangerous. 2 lanes, no duplication, blind curves carved into cliffs that drop hundreds of meters into the Hartley Valley below. For decades, communities on both sides of the mountains have buried friends on this road. And yet, every day, more than 12,000 cars and trucks have no choice but to use it, because it is the only major route connecting Sydney to the entire central west of New South Wales. This is the story of a $4.5 billion engineering mission, one of the largest and most complex road upgrades in Australian history, to finally tame a mountain that has resisted modernisation for 200 years. To understand why this upgrade is so extraordinary and so expensive, you first need to understand what engineers are actually up against. The Blue Mountains are not gentle hills. They are a dissected plateau, an ancient sandstone tableland carved over millions of years into sheer cliffs, narrow ridgelines and deep gorges. The kind of terrain that makes any civil engineer's palms sweat. The upper strata of the Blue Mountains, the peaks and ridgelines, are predominantly sandstone and claystone layers, with localized basalt caps on higher peaks. These layers are visible on the cliff faces, and this is the geology through which the Blackheath Tunnel would be constructed. Most of it is workable, but a particular formation called the Banks Wall Sandstone has unusual properties. It doesn't behave the way standard sandstone should under pressure. It fractures unpredictably. It absorbs water and swells. It can destabilize a tunnel face without warning. And sitting directly above this geological puzzle, endangered peat swamps, fragile ecosystems entirely dependent on the groundwater table. Drill in the wrong place and you don't just build a road, you drain a swamp that's been here since before European contact. The existing road is the result of this geology, and its limitations show. The highway between Katoomba and Lithgow follows an alignment designed for vehicles travelling at 60 kilometers an hour, not for the B-double freight trucks now dominating this corridor. The ruling grade, the maximum sustained slope, reaches 6% in some sections. For a loaded semi-trailer, that's not a hill, that's a trial by fire. When the Great Western Highway closes, and it does close regularly, the consequences ripple across an entire region. An estimated 12,000 cars and trucks a day are forced onto diversion routes when the highway shuts. The Bells Line of road, the only other major crossing, is itself a challenging mountain road, never designed for heavy freight. When both routes are compromised simultaneously, Western New South Wales is effectively severed from Sydney. Think about what that means. The Central West produces a significant share of NSW's agricultural output. Grain, livestock, wool, canola, all needing to reach the port. Medical supplies flow the other way. Emergency services cross in both directions. The population in the Central West region is expected to grow by around 8% over the next 20 years, with total traffic volumes expected to increase by at least 1.5% each year. The cost of doing nothing is not zero. It accumulates quietly in crashes, in delays, in communities that can't attract investment, because the artery connecting them to the city is unreliable, under capacity, and frankly frightening to drive. The Great Western Highway Upgrade Programme will deliver 34 kilometres of 4-lane divided highway between Katoomba and Lithgow, divided into three main sections: East, West, and Central. And at the heart of it lies a feat of engineering Australia has never attempted before. The centrepiece is a twin tunnel running approximately 11 kilometres between Blackheath and Little Hartley. When built, it won't just be the longest road tunnel in Australia, it will surpass anything previously attempted in this country by a significant margin. The design calls for two separate tunnels, one eastbound, one westbound, each carrying two lanes of traffic. In a twin-tube design, if something catastrophic happens in one bore, a collision, a fire, a breakdown, the other tunnel becomes the evacuation route. The two tubes are connected at regular intervals by cross passages, pressurized walkways that allow drivers to escape from a stricken tunnel into the safe bore beside it. International safety standards call for cross passages every 250 meters, meaning dozens of these connection points cut through the rock between the two bores, each one a small engineering project in its own right. At its deepest point beneath Mount Victoria, the tunnel would sit up to 200 meters below the surface. 200 meters of solid Blue Mountain sandstone pressing down on a 15-meter diameter concrete tube carrying cars and B-double trucks at highway speed. The rock load alone must be transferred around the tunnel opening rather than through it, achieved through the concrete segmental lining system. Precast rings of reinforced concrete bolted together and engineered to distribute that load continuously around the circular profile of the bore. Waterproofing that lining is just as critical as the structural design. Tunnel boring machines were selected as the preferred construction method precisely because they install a waterproof tunnel lining progressively as they advance, meaning excavation and sealing of the void happen almost simultaneously, with virtually no window for groundwater to enter. This matters enormously in the Blue Mountains, where the peat swamps sitting above the tunnel are entirely dependent on the groundwater table remaining stable. A leak isn't just a maintenance problem. It could alter the hydrology of an endangered ecosystem that has taken thousands of years to form. The TBMs would be launched from Little Hartley and tunnel eastbound toward Blackheath, around 15 meters in diameter, moving upslope at roughly 70 to 90 meters per week. That upslope direction is deliberate. Working against the gradient means groundwater naturally drains back toward the launch portal, rather than pooling at the tunnel face where it would slow excavation and risk instability. Near the portals and cross-passage connections, construction shifts to road headers, essentially mechanical arms that carve rock with surgical precision where the tunnel changes shape or direction. Then there is what to do with millions of tons of excavated spoil, crushed sandstone, claystone, and rock fragments that must be removed and disposed of without damaging the surrounding World Heritage environment. For 11 kilometers through the Blue Mountains, that is not a trivial logistics problem. Once operational, the tunnels require continuous ventilation, drainage, lighting, signage, and emergency systems running around the clock. Ventilation in a tunnel of this length is one of the most complex engineering challenges in the discipline. At 11 kilometers, natural airflow from moving vehicles is nowhere near sufficient. A fire without active mechanical ventilation would create a smoke column that could incapacitate drivers before they reached either portal. The system must detect an incident, determine the direction of smoke travel, and redirect airflow away from evacuating road users, all within minutes and all automatically. Managing all of this would fall to a tunnel operations facility next to the Blackheath portal. A permanently staffed control room overseeing ventilation, water treatment, fire safety, and live traffic management via variable message signs and overhead gantries. By boring from below rather than cutting from above, engineers can thread this tunnel beneath Blackheath's heritage streetscape, beneath its endangered swamps, and beneath 200 years of community history without disturbing a single building on the surface. The tunnel is harder to build, slower to deliver, and vastly more expensive than a surface road. But it is the only solution that threads the needle between moving freight and protecting one of the most ecologically significant landscapes in Australia. While the tunnel takes the headline, the rest of the upgrade is no less significant. The east section involves widening about 3.5 kilometres of highway between Rowan Lane in Katoomba and Bellevue Crescent in Medlow, Bath, plus new concrete twin bridges over the valley from Pulpit Hill near Explorers Road, each around 400 metres long. Intersections are being rebuilt, rock cuttings stabilised, and a new eastbound truck stopping area addresses one of the most dangerous phenomena on mountain roads: runaway vehicles. On a 6% grade, a fully loaded truck that loses its brakes has one option: a runaway truck ramp. These sand and gravel arrestor beds are designed to bring a 50-ton vehicle to a controlled stop through pure rolling resistance. The fact that the existing highway needs more of them tells you everything about how extreme this terrain is. Construction on the west section began in April 2023, and traffic switched to the new alignment in April 2025. Locally sourced materials were used throughout, including concrete from Lithgow and quarry materials from Oberon. At the peak of construction, the full program is expected to support 3,900 jobs: engineers, surveyors, geotechnicians, concreters, tunnel miners, machine operators. A workforce not just building a road but acquiring skills that will shape Australian infrastructure for decades. When this project is finished, something genuinely shifts. This upgrade will complete the final 34-kilometre connection of a modern dual carriageway link across the Blue Mountains, for the first time in the history of this road. A road that has existed in some form since convict labourers hand-built it under surveyor William Cox, completed in just 6 months in 1814 and 1815. Every generation thought they'd fix this road. Convicts blasted sandstone with black powder. Colonial engineers widened Victoria Pass. Post-war road builders laid bitumen. Each time within a decade or two, the road was again too narrow, too dangerous, too slow for the traffic it carried. This upgrade is different, not just in scale, but in permanence. An 11-kilometre tunnel doesn't get outgrown in 20 years. 4 lanes of divided highway doesn't become obsolete when freight volumes double. This latest upgrade continues a 2-century tradition of improving this vital transport route. But for the first time, it might actually finish it. $4.5 billion is an extraordinary sum. It will be scrutinised, debated. Some of that debate is legitimate. Projects of this complexity almost always cost more and take longer than forecast, but here is what that money actually buys. It buys a road that doesn't close every time it rains. It buys 30 minutes back for every truck driver on the Bathurst run. It buys a safer school run for families in Blackheath, Katoomba, and Lithgow. It buys the confidence for a business in Orange to sign a Sydney logistics contract knowing the supply chain won't be severed by a single crash on a cliff face. And it buys something harder to quantify: the end of an era in which one of Australia's most critical transport corridors was held together by patience, luck, and the engineering decisions of another century. The mountain is ancient, the road is new, and for the first time in 200 years, one might finally be worthy of the other.